dream a while ago about construction. I was driving on a highway, and I specifically remember this being around the time when I originally wanted to leave the church, All Nations, and I didn't, but I wanted to. So I ended up walking out, going to my car, and having a sense of, I just won't go to church anymore. I don't even know if I believe anymore. And I had been through a lot at that point, but I was incredibly frustrated, and I can't remember the reason why. I think they just used to act really weird at All Nations, and I didn't really care for the way they behaved and treated people. Not everyone, but like the people who were in like the senior leadership positions, like the leadership positions, and people who wanted a little bit more responsibility would behave weirdly, um, and almost like mean if they saw someone else um, who they deemed to be a threat or whatever to their. And how that would even be, I don't know. To me, I used to be excited to see other people having faith, and but it's, each person has their own motivations. So I don't know. I have nothing to say about that part, but I'm just saying I was really disheartened at that time, and just real ready to just like, okay, I just don't want to go to church anymore. Um, so something must have happened, but I don't remember what. They probably were asking for even more time, and at the time I was going Sundays and Tuesdays for prayer, plus teaching a class, plus doing a meeting, plus doing a life group, and going to school. Um, and, development for teachers, things, and prophetic development, and prayer classes, and just a lot. Like, I legit could have been there 7 days a week on certain times. So I had to just put my foot down about certain stuff. Um, Anyhow, I probably was irritated about something, and I don't remember what. But I remember feeling that way, and I had a dream. And in the dream, I walked away from the church. And at that time, there was a lot of construction going on the roads, and a lot of traffic, so I couldn't get around very well. And there was a flood, and the flood caused a sinkhole in the street. So I couldn't go, but some people were still trying to go, and I was like, I feel like I can make it with my truck. I had my silver truck at this time. That's how long ago this was that I had this dream. I was like, I feel like I can make it, so I was getting ready to go, and Stacy came and stopped me. Stacy Smith. She was like, Veronica, don't leave. You've been through a lot here, and don't give up. Whatever, whatever. And I was like, oh, I don't know, Stace. I feel like I can make it. And she was like, I feel like you've been through too much to, walk away from whatever, whatever. And I was like, I really don't have it in me to put up with nothing else. Like, I don't think she was hearing me, but I was trying to hear her, And I think what she ended up finally saying was like, okay, I understand that you're frustrated with people, but don't give up on God. So I was like, okay, I don't necessarily give up on God. I'm not trying to walk away from God, but I don't want to be a part of this particular style of ministry because I can't, it's not my best. It doesn't bring out the best in me. You know what I'm saying? So this particular team in this particular setting, in this particular, what they require doesn't bring out the best in me. So that's what I was trying to say. And I don't think she ever really heard me. But I did turn back for safety reasons. But I promise you, I could have made it. I made it through some very difficult, challenging things already, things that should not have been possible, um, like on a physiological level, on a physics level. Um, I was able to do remarkable things and make it through some dangerous things. So I was getting ready to, cross that last little thing. And she came and got me like, please turn back. Please don't do this. I don't want you to get hurt. And so I was like, okay. All right. I'm not going to push my luck. So I did turn back. I had another dream, even way before this, about leaving another church. And when I left, I was just walking with someone. It was a guy, and I know his name, but I don't think the name or the person necessarily matters. It's just a figure of walking with. This person used to manifest to me as like an angel, like a person more spiritual than me, like higher ranking than me. And I think this person used to represent, it was a male. So I think it just used to represent the person, not it. I'm calling the person an it because I don't believe it was a person at all. I believe it was a spirit. Um, and I believe that it just was a manifestation of the Father's love for me, and what He wants from me. So when I left, I grabbed this person by the hand and walked over with this person's help. I walked over a tree log that fell inside of the building. Like the conditions, it was super stormy. The conditions were really, really bad, just like the other dream. Um, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead. And there was like no power. People were standing around. People were looking at each other, and they just kept doing the little things. Their space just got smaller, but they kept doing the little things that they had already been doing. And I was like, this really ain't fixing nothing. This ain't really putting the power back on. There's people who need help, you know what I'm saying? And they're not in here, they're outside. So I was going outside to see, what it looked like outside. And they're like, no, stay in. It's not safe out there, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay. I let them go ahead. I went and got my kids and my husband, and we walked for a little while. And then for some reason, they couldn't overcome the second tree. So I was like, okay, we'll just stick together and wait right here. I'm going to keep going and see what I can, figure out, and I'll be back. And that person came and said, I'll walk with you. And he opened the door for me. He held my hand, made sure that I was okay as I was climbing over the dangerous things. So it wasn't necessarily like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a romantic connection, I'll call it. It was more like, I'm gonna make sure you're okay, while you do this. I'm gonna keep an eye on you while you do this. Like, I'm not trying to restrict you. I'm not trying to tell you you can't. Um, I'm gonna walk with you while you do it, type stuff. Because it is dangerous. I'm not gonna let you do it alone, type thing. Um, So we just, walked together, and I think we were holding hands when we walked out. And he opened the door for me, and then we walked into the parking lot, which was very much packed. And I do remember seeing a very packed parking lot. When I went to see the Cat Williams, it was like there was no order. There's no like, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no sense of this is a line to get out and this is a line to get out, or you know what I'm saying? It was just like, no, everybody was just like, it looked like a drive-in movie. All the cars were just trying to get out chaotically um, of the parking lot. So I was like, chaos kind of irks my stomach, so it kind of bothered me. But I was like, okay, I'm not leaving in a car. I'm about to go see what's going on in this little field area, because there was like a wooded area, and there was a lot of people out there that were hurt and stuck. So I was just gonna see what they needed, like if they needed help or whatever. So walked past the parking lot with all the cars in a standstill, and walked over to the wooded area, and it was very dark. That was the first thing I noticed. And somehow me and that person became, whatever, we separated. Um, and then when I was looking around in the dark, I ran into a lady, an older lady, and she had light with her, and she was like, "Come over here, daughter, come over here." And I was like, "Okay." And she seemed to be like tan in her skin, and her skin was like very weathered kind of tan, like older, sunburned, and a little bit more olive tone than reddish. Like I have like a reddish undertone to my skin. She had more of like an olive undertone, um, like a Middle Eastern olive. And anyhow, she was praying when I found her, and she saw me, and she called me over to her, and she kept praying. And I'll tell you this, there have been times when I've been praying and I will have a vision of somebody popping up on me while I'm praying from another land, and I will call them and I will see what they need, and then I'll pray about it. So that's exactly what she was doing, and I knew it. I know it now. I didn't know it then, but I know it now. So if somebody has already prayed for me in this moment, is what I'm telling you, and I dreamt about it a long time ago. Like I'll see people dressed in their country's, you know, style of dress or whatever. Sometimes it'll be like head coverings or whatever. Sometimes it'll be like a tunic or something. Um, just different, facial features, whatever, whatever. Um, but anyhow, the point of the story is I'm now realizing that that lady was picking me up in prayer, and her prayer was lighting up the space, the dark space. So as I'm watching her pray, she grabs my hand and says, "Pray with me." And I said, "Okay." So I began to pray with her, and as I began to pray, I began to see men taller than I could see, like taller than my line of sight. Like I couldn't look up at their face if I wanted to. Moving the branches and trees as if they were pieces of wood. And some of them were carrying lamps. Like one of them was carrying lamps to move around, and some of them were moving um, the debris. Um, and as we prayed, they would put things in order. Um, and I remember we prayed until the light hit, until it became daylight again. And when the daylight hit, we stopped praying, and I saw flowers growing. It's getting brighter right now as I'm saying this. Um, I saw flowers growing by one of the trees, and I was like, this type of flower doesn't belong here, it belongs over there. And as I spoke those words, the flowers literally got up and moved to the other spot. This dream was, I think my kids were so maybe 5. You know, they're 25 and 23 right now. So it was a long time ago, like a real long time ago that I had that dream. And I remember it so vividly, like it was yesterday. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to rehearse these things because twice I've had dreams of floods and destruction and the chaos that ensues, and they both were related to me walking outside of the church and being more with the community, with the people who needed help. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to rehearse those dreams. I have them written down somewhere with the dates that I had them. However, that's irrelevant. I just wanted to process the meaning of the dreams and make sure that I understand what God was saying to me in the dreams. And I feel like, okay, so since 2020, I have not been back to church. And it really necessarily wasn't, I didn't really care for some stuff, and there was a lot of demands on my time and unrealistic demands, to be honest, for a volunteer position. Um, but it was training, and I don't regret, what I did because it did train me to be who I am today. It was a part of my process, and I just don't carry myself in that way at this time. And I don't feel like God even requires that of me. There are very few that God calls to act in that way, and I just don't feel that it's the most effective use of a Christian's life. I feel like if you love God and you want to do or want to be like, Jesus and the disciples are out and about, shaking and moving with the people that y'all be talking about and making videos about and, laughing at and shit. Um, Serving them, legitimately serving them, teaching them, preaching, not just like, oh, oh, according to the Bible, did you pray? If you didn't, the devil's gonna get you. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't that type of situation that he wasn't on that type of time with people. Um, to put it in the current vernacular, um, he was more like, did you eat? You know, well, let's get something to eat. Um, let's sit down and have a conversation. Oh, you were about to get some water? I'll walk with you to go get this water. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you going fishing? Me too. You know what I'm saying? Let's spend some time together. Um, I'll show you how I do it. Like I know you got away, but let me show you how I do it. You might learn something from me. I might learn something from you. But in our time together, we'll see what God says. Um, and what he does, and they come back incredibly blessed from their time together. Like, and, they'd be like, okay, Jesus, might be able to, pray and believe in God a little bit. I'm not going to be, who you are. obviously, but I can, whatever, talk to the Father, et cetera, et cetera. I'll be more cognizant of that reality. You know what I'm saying? That it is, whatever. Um, I'll learn more. I'll put my mind to applying myself to learn more about it rather than just passively accepting what other people say. So that's basically what I feel in my spirit, and people that I know and pastors that I know are kind of like trying to squeeze me back into like that little place that I was. Like, you need to be back praying on XYZ times and days, and if you don't do it at this time, doesn't count. Um, if you don't pray so many days, blah blah blah. If you don't fast, from sun up to sundown, you're a heathen. And they don't say these things directly, but they're just kind of like the implication of joining, the implication of membership, like the kind of like the unspoken expectations of membership and leadership and blah, blah, blah. And so I've been wrestling with these things and praying about, like, okay, Jesus, I'm trying not to be like, unruly. I don't have an issue with submitting to people or following other people's leadership at all. And anyway, I don't like to lead, to be totally honest with you. I prefer for someone else to do it. People just don't be doing it. And when I see something that needs to be done, I offer to help. So I have been praying about, like, okay, so do I conform to what is, or do I continue with what I feel in my spirit, the leading that I feel? Because if I do this, if I commit to this way, I won't be available to this way. You know what I'm saying? And it's something, they're not necessarily opposed to one another, but they're not necessarily aligned. So I'm reticent about making a commitment, because when I commit to something, I like to keep my word. You know what I'm saying? So I very rarely give people my word on something, because once I do, then I fulfill it and I take you to that, what we said we was going to do together. I always do my part. So it's just a matter of finding a place that both is a more like a reciprocal. There's a sign that I'm looking at, like it's an infinity. It looks like an infinity, and it's kind of like gives a space for the back and forth. You know what I'm saying? Like, you move this way and it comes back to you. You go this way and it comes back to you. You know what I'm saying? Reciprocally and perpetually. So you give and you receive, you give and you receive. And people like to be on that, if you plant a seed, you might not get it where you thought you would get it. Like, that's some bullshit, because if I go out and I plant a tomato seed in my yard, I don't expect to go to 2 houses down. I shouldn't have to walk to the store to buy tomatoes. You know what I'm saying? I shouldn't have to go looking like, tomatoes, are you coming or not? You know what I'm saying? Like, them tomatoes need to be on the vine that I planted them in. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna stop with the nonsensical bullshit excuses, because that's what it is. It's intentional withholding, and the Bible does talk about if you withhold good from those that you know are due, then you got an issue with him. He got an issue with you, and you got an issue with him. I mean, I could pull it up. I don't feel like I should have to, because so could you. Um, yeah. So that's how that goes. Um, and that's what I've been praying about, because once again, this way of life doesn't align with the way that I'm seeing the leading of the Lord. I have no other way to say it. So that's my dilemma. That is my hesitation, I guess. I don't want to call it a hesitation. I'll call it a it's more something that I'm trying to get an answer on, I guess. Trying to get some guidance on from someone other than me, because I don't think I know everything. So I guess I'll be asking for prayer, and I like, more than one person to pray for me, because church people gonna want you to do what they be doing. But I do feel like it's like a new way of doing things, and it's not necessarily new, it's old. And then I'll throw in this third dream. My former apostle, Dr. Matthew Stevenson, posted a picture of him at the original School of Prophets, one of the original School of Prophets. It might have been his second class, it was my first class, is where I met them in 2007. And in that class, he was just giving a teaching about, people who are called to be prophets and have a very strong prophetic gift or whatever. Whether it manifests through prophesying, prayer, whatever. There's many different ways that it comes. And I saw that little video, and I was like, oh, look at old school. I'm in there somewhere. I'm probably sitting behind that's first row. I'm sitting in the second row because I hate sitting in the first row. Matter of fact, I think I was sitting on the first row because this couple wanted to sit together, and I was like, dang it. Now I got to sit in the front row. They always used to make me try to sit in the front row, and I always used to like to sit in the back. Or somewhere like, inconspicuous. But in that meeting, I recall Apostle giving me a word saying, and he would he was sensing a lot. He was tapping in quite a bit. Every time he'd come over, he'd be like, number one. Number two, he said, like as he was teaching, he would be saying little things that kind of like applied to me directly. So I could tell he was pulling on me, you know what I mean? Like sometimes when you're a prophetic person and you're around other prophetic people, it creates this little shared I guess I'll call it a pool of energy. And when it starts steering up, you just, get your little cup and you go. You just pull it on up. You know what I'm saying? Stuff just pops up very easily. So he, and it's not like that for everyone. I won't say that everyone has access to it, and I won't even tell you that everyone administrates it the same way, because kind of like a house, everybody has a house, but everybody's house ain't the same level of clean. They have their own leanings, they have their own motivations, they have their own filth on there. They might have a scent to their stuff. They might have a certain, certain little, their foundation might be needing, might need some correction. Maybe their house done settled in and the foundation is cracked, might need some repairs, some reinforcement on fundamental stuff. I don't know. So I don't always just go by what other people tell me. I make sure what other people tell me align with the word of God. If it does, I accept it. And that's what I mean when I say I respect you, I trust you, um, I value what you say. It is a compliment, and it's not like a flattery. It's not coming from a place of flattery, because when I say that, what I mean is I know that you cleaned your cup. You are meticulous with the way that you handle God's people, um, and I find you to be trustworthy. Okay, so there's that. And then number three, some people, you know how you get a certain medicine and you misapply it. You know what I'm saying? You are, you have, okay, let's say, let's use opioids, for example. There's a valid use, there's a legal use. Um, some people might do it too much and it is no longer effectual. Some people might, be putting it topically, and it's meant to be ingested orally. Some people might be, it might be, a spray thing and they're putting it in their eyeballs. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's very specifically, it's not for eyeballs. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't explain everything to you. I can just give you these analogies for how to use it. So some people are misusing it, thinking that they're doing something because they got the ingredients, they got the raw ingredients, but they're not applying it appropriately. You know what I'm saying? Because they either are, like I said earlier about the paint, they didn't follow the process, so it's not going to stick, it's not going to last, it's not going to, it's covering, what was there, but what's under there is going to still be bothersome because they didn't follow the process to achieve the right result. Okay, so that's what I mean by that. um, I hope that is made clear now, so you can get a little prophetic pull together, but it doesn't mean you are going to get the right result and you are going to give a right word to anyone. It doesn't make you a prophet. um, Being near a prophetic person and their gifting. um, so I would advise you don't play with that, because you are literally playing with fire. And one thing about fire, pretty much everything but water is flammable. So I would advise you to be careful. You be cautious as you approach it, and have you some people who know how to deal with it, because you'll see a lot of people. There's a certain girl, um, that I recall looking at in the spirit, and this girl looks singed up like Henry Carver Peanut Man at the end of that movie. When I tell you this girl looks half singed in the spirit, because I know what that's from. I personally know it's because you playing with fire, um, going above your measure, and doing too much with what you think you know and what you think you have access to. And it singed your little ass. I know. I just know. I promise you, I recognize it. I know it. Um, so when I tell you to be careful with these things, please believe me. And don't try to stir up something that you ain't prepared for and that you haven't been processed for, that you aren't clear for. Because just like a plane, it is a vehicle, it is a form of transportation, but you have to have a license to fly, and then you have to have a commercial license to fly other people in that thing. Um, so you got to be careful because you might be causing accidents. And interruptions in people's flight patterns. So don't wonder why you get grounded. Now, I said that to say, to explain how, when prophetic, actual prophetic people, and when you're near another person, um, how that thing works. So he was pulling on me is what I was trying to explain, and what that means is he was tapping into the spirit about me, and it ended up coming out in the message and the analogies that he was using. um, and they ended up applying directly to me. Um, what else? And then he gave me a word, and the word was, "You are a handmaiden of the Lord." And that handmaiden thing used to bother me. Like, what does that mean? And I used to be like, does that mean I'm gonna be like, like serving and always serving? Well, I don't want to be always serving, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not lazy by any means, but I don't want people looking at me like every time you look at me like you want something. Because it was like that for a little while. Um, and that could be exhausting and depleting. Because when you're always the strong one, people don't see what do you need something? Are you okay? You know what I'm saying? Um, in our day, back in the day, biblical days, people used to treat prophets and people who blessed them a little bit better. This woman built Elijah a whole room in her house. Like, oh, honey, 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 anytime you come to my city, please don't book no room. You stand with me. You know what I'm saying? Um, because when you stay with me, you know, our whole house will be blessed. Um, because I know God is with you, and I want to honor the gift that God gave, whatever. And it's not, Elijah didn't ask her to do that. She did it of her own accord. But what I'm saying is, even in the New Testament, if you take to the New Testament, Apostle Paul would send out teachers, and he'd be like, make sure you take care of them because they are, I'm sending them to you with something for you, and make sure that they don't need for nothing while they're with you. It's just how the way it was. So when Paul would go out, Apostle Paul would go out, he would, stay with some of the local believers or whatever, and they would be like, having breakfast together, different little stuff. Um, Nothing crazy. He wouldn't, Elijah wouldn't even accept everybody's hospitality. Like, he'd be like, we good. I done built us a little spot for us to be. Thank you for your gifts. He would accept what he could from who he could, and he built a little spot for him and the prophets so that they wouldn't be tempted to be so takey, and he can regulate them from manipulating people and being manipulated by people's gifts. Um, so there's that aspect. I'm telling you, it's like a whole thing, bro. It's a whole thing, and it's a lot. It's a lot to balance. Um, so, like legit, a king came, and he blessed the king. He prayed for him, so healed him of leprosy. By praying for him. Um, and the king was like, "What do you want? I brought all this stuff." And he was like, "I can't. I'm so sorry. I can't take nothing from you, but go ahead on, wash yourself, and you'll be healed, and you can go on back home." Didn't offer him a place to stay for the night. None of that. And dude got a little offended, like, "You didn't want nothing of mine?" And Elijah was like, "No." Um, the man was healed. All his stuff was healed. He had leprosy, okay? Incredibly contagious. Everything about him was healed when he left, after he did what he was supposed to do. However, his assistant, Gehazi, went and chased that man before he dipped and said, "You know what? We do need some new clothes." And he took the clothes and caught the leprosy. Um, so sometimes these people, have to be a part of something else, but it doesn't mean that Gehazi was necessarily, he didn't understand why Elijah told him not to take these things, you know what I'm saying? But it was for a reason, you know? So there are times when you can connect with certain people, and there's certain people you can't connect with. But God is the person who tells you that, not other people. They don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, no one else is over you, trying to control who you talk to and who you don't talk to. Like, that's weird. That's slavery. So if there is a person trying to act like that, you know that it's not of God. Look at this weird nose. Um, so I just wanted to make those remarks. But back to the word that I received, it was something about handmaiden. He was like, "You have such favor with God. He delights in you." And he delights in your nearness to him. And I was like, okay, that was different. It was legit, something I never heard. Someone else told me that God, my countenance, reflects, was beautiful because it reflects him. I didn't even know what that word meant. I had to go look it up. But it's just like your external presence radiates his glory, you know, um, like shines on you or shines through you. Um, so yeah, the point of the story is I wasn't sure what that word meant. Years later, I have another dream, and it's me serving. In the dream, I was waiting on tables with Peter, some apostles, and I specifically remember seeing the apostle Peter and some of the other disciples. But for whatever reason, as I was serving, I was trying to do it myself, and they were like, "Let me show you how you handle this." Because people were getting real, like, demanding and bossy, like, real, like, "I want XYZ." And Peter was like, "No, that ain't on the menu. We got XYZ. What do you want? You know what I'm saying? Out of these things. Okay, we'll bring whatever. Like it wasn't like we're cooking to order. It was, this is what we're serving. Do you want fish or chicken? You know what I'm saying? Um, this is what's on the menu in this house. Um, and so when we were done, we left. We didn't stay there long. We left. It was very busy. There was a wait, and we left. And I followed them down the stairs. Um, Legit, he had on a white robe and sandals. And I followed him down, and we went out to like a sandy place and left. And we were following Jesus as we left, like legit. Well, we didn't stay there waiting on people hand and foot, but they were teaching me how to deal with people more authoritatively. Um, so yeah, so there's that dream. So I think that that dream references the original thing that, because I was like literally right on Jesus' heels um, as we were walking and leaving. Um, I just felt like I wanted to, like, I had like, they had taught me so much. I was like, I want to learn more. I had like such an appetite to learn even more, like what else, um, like that type of thing. So I was very excited, and also like I need to hear what he's saying. And I just told you it's not like me to be like the first in line, but this time I was like, I was clicking on my way close. Um, so yeah, so those are the things that I'm considering. I'm just rehearsing them out loud because it would take me too long to write down um, all of these thoughts. I can be here literally all day because I'll just keep looking up stuff and writing down more stuff. And oh, yeah, I remember XYZ. So just want to get it out real quick. And this is what I'm praying on um, for the next however long until I decide. But if I'm honest, I don't know that it will end in a membership. Um, but I don't think it's wrong to be a member somewhere. I just don't know that model of ministry fits my current stage of life and what I'm called to do. That's what I'll say. Okay, let me make sure it's so pretty. Anyhow, anyhow, that's how I feel right now. But I'm open to other people's interpretation and prayers. But sneaky, I feel like my call is to be out of the church, using my gifts to help serve in and out of the hospice, in and out of the places where believers and non-believers meet, because a restaurant is a place, like a dining table is a place where everyone goes, and it's legit, it's biblical. Like Jesus was, always at dinners and weddings and stuff like that.